NET-609, network security. So we are on, this is week 14, and this is Tuesday. We talked about AWS, the Foundations class is available for anybody to take. It's available until June 30th. It's about 6.5 hours of video and about 5 hours for labs. So that's, you know, I'd say it's approximately, even though that adds up to be, what, 11.5 hours, these 6 hours, there's probably an hour and a half of that's just testing. Okay, so just taking tests. So it's not learning material. So we have about four hours there, and 5 here. So that's 9, and so you might want to double that, only because if you're taking notes and so forth. So it might take us 20 hours to complete the class of actual student work, plus then time for discussion, review, and talking about it. Pretty tough to finish yet this term. If we do the class, you want to do it in its entirety, because it really does lay the foundations of how to function in AWS. So we can think about that. We'll talk about it again on Thursday. Palo Alto materials, the security, we talked about firewalls, we talked about the foundations, gateway we finished up today, and then we have things to cover in the essentials part. Okay. So that was our plan initially, to finish that over the next 3 class sessions. And we wouldn't cover all of that. But in Palo Alto, we can really cover certain facets in there that would be, what would be the word? It's okay to skip around a little bit where it wouldn't be there. So we talked about cloud, virtualization, storage in the cloud. Again, we reviewed system administrator, provisioning and deprovisioning. I'm just double checking, make sure we understood what that meant. We talked a little bit about NIAC, their departments, their desktop, their infrastructure in terms of people that make those function, and how that would change if they were going to move some stuff out on the cloud. You know, it's a lot of decisions in terms of how you would do that. But in order to do that, you have to have some foundation of how a cloud functions. We ran through some other networking items from security. So here, let me use a little bit different color. See if the blue shows up a little better. Yeah, unified threat management. This is a framework that allows you to make sure you take care of all of the different threat things you should be taking care of in your company. We talked a little more about VPNs. I really encourage everybody to go through the e-learning in Module 6 in terms of VPNs. And then I finished up today. We talked about DLP in terms of data loss prevention. You know, we have like PII, personal identifying information. We got intellectual property. We have just business data that, you know, we need to manage. That data needs to be inspected, and it needs to be classified based on some type of policies. You can't classify unless you have some policies. Then you have to apply those rules. So this whole idea goes beyond intrusion prevention systems and so forth to where we're really focused on the data. Data has become more complex. We're encrypting data now, or the bad guys can encrypt data, so all kinds of issues there. We can compress data. So, we have to classify data before we encrypt it. Okay, so that needs to be done. And then there's regulatory things we have to do with the data. Especially once we have it classified, we know, what kind of data it is and how we need to manage it. And then there's certain laws that we have to be compliant, or compliance within our own company, industry, and so forth. So, labs, let's see here, I think it was labs 6 and 7 in the Palo Alto material. You can skip those, they didn't work. So we need to finish the rest of the labs, and then we're going to head into the essentials, and or at least maybe talk about this a little more on Thursday. Yeah, students have some comments about foundations work, which we're going to be doing some of that in the OS2 class anyway. That is it for today.